Sup, you beautiful bastards. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Welcome back to the DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is a story that I hate that I'm even having to spend time on because there is a lot to cover today, but it is important for me to kind of just throw this out there and then get past it. That said, if you do not care about this story, here is the time code to get past it. So this is in regards to the Alinity PewDiePie collab DRM situation that we covered Wednesday and Thursday, because on Saturday, PewDiePie released a video where in that video, he gave his points, but also at the same time, there was a part where he featured clips from the Thursday show and called me a white knight. And many people saying that, you know, Phil, why are you defending Alinity? You're making her out to be this poor, ignorant victim who's just absolved of any and all public actions. And the thing is, this isn't even necessarily a response to PewDiePie himself, because after he posted that video, we spoke privately, we're on the same page, he gets the points that I was trying to hit on. We're all great. We actually, I mean, if you actually look at the videos, we're very much on the same page. And I think that there was just a disconnect, but very importantly, a disconnect that was there with people before Felix even made that video. And understand, when I say disconnect, I think that it's largely based off of my presentation. I'm not saying like, oh, these people are beneath me, they don't get what I'm saying, or the people saying this, they're haters. No, if I put out a piece of content into the world, I put my words out there into the world, and a large number of people, they pull back completely different points. They pull back that I'm doing a completely different thing than what I thought I was intending to do, that I'm not hitting the points that I thought I was, then that probably means I did a pretty fucking shitty job in hitting my points and clarifying my points. That's just the way that it is. And looking back at that Thursday video, I think there were points that I could have hit on in a different way, hit on harder, gone back and really created some separation as to what I was trying to talk about, and also included some information that I didn't include in the Thursday video for a very specific reason that I'm going to let you in on right now. And so, one, regarding the people saying, Phil, why are you defending Alinity on Thursday when you went really in on all the horrible that she put out there publicly on Wednesday? And my response to that is, I'm not defending the things that she said. There's a reason that we covered this on Wednesday. I'm not defending when she said, can we strike PewDiePie? I'm not defending when she continued to roll with the situation and said, yeah, if you wanna post videos about me, just make sure they're not mean, otherwise you're gonna get claimed. When I refer to part of this story as an unfortunate situation, if at any point she seems like a victim, what I'm trying to get across is she is a victim of her own making. She is a victim of her own lies and false posturing. The only way this story got to where it got is because for 2 days, she had her freak out and then she just rolled with it, saying that she was taking credit for all these things that I know without a doubt, because of other information that I have, she had nothing to do with the claim against Felix's video and nothing to do with that smaller video. So regarding too, when people said, Phil, I can't believe you did this interview, all of a sudden you're just believing her lies. Here's a piece of information that I hate even having to throw out there, because it essentially kills a video that I wanted to work on, but it gives people an explanation as to why I am so sure about something that a lot of people think that I'm just so gullible. Before Alinity told me that she never contacted Collab DRM, before Collab DRM confirmed that statement and said, you know, we as a company, we do these things without being contacted or without reactions from the creators. Before all of that, I had a completely different third source that gave me all of that same information, and it is a very reliable source. And the reason I didn't include that source is because both Alinity and Collab DRM separately confirmed that story. I was trying to make sure that I didn't raise any alarms over there, not thinking that some people might assume that Collab DRM would publicly lie to take the heat off of one of their people and just kind of fall on their own sword. So looking back at that situation, I now realize that including that third source would be a very important piece of information to include. And three, I think one of the biggest disconnects from the video between myself, the message that I was trying to get out there, and the people that watched it was that during the course of the Thursday video, I was trying to use clips from our recorded phone conversation, and then after playing those clips, I was trying to consolidate much larger points that she kind of just talked on for several minutes, but I was trying to fit it for time. And so during those moments, watching back, I can see why some people would just look at those clips and think that I was trying to defend her, whereas I was trying to explain her mindset as she explained it, as far as why she did something so stupid for 2 days. It was a relaying and consolidation of information, her reasoning as she told me, not a cosign. And from that, I pivot and say, this really isn't a situation about one person. This is a situation about a company, and that's what we need to focus on. And I think a lot of people took that as me giving her a pass on everything she had said, all the threats she had thrown out there. And so on that note, just so we clear things up, I do believe that intent matters to a certain point, but ultimately, when you make a threat that you are going to claim people's content for saying something that you don't like, same as I said Wednesday, that is a horrible thing. I feel like I hit those points in the Wednesday video, but I also understand that content exists in a bubble and people could see this as a shifting of opinion, especially, and this is what really drove it home for me. Alinity put out a video where she says, she talked with me and that, I totally cleared her name, and that's where I really realized there was a disconnect. Her intent saying those things on stream for 2 days doesn't take away the fact that she said those things, and that's what the internet is responding to. Because it's important important to understand there are two different situations here. There's one, what she said, and two, my main focus. My personal focus is on the giant company that has the manpower and resources to just wreak terror on the YouTube community. And that's also something that Felix hit on at the end, that for him, this is not an outlier situation.
DRM, the company that did strike the channel, I'm more than familiar with that. They admitted afterwards that it was a human error. But it really wasn't. This happens all the time.
And so that statement and similar statements I've gotten from other YouTubers was the reason why I was focusing so heavily on just collab DRM. And so hopefully that further explains the points that I was trying to hit on, clarifies the main points, and also clears up the confusion. And ultimately, I think those that were confused, the misunderstanding, it falls on me. My presentation of the story, and I'm a person that is hypercritical of my own content. It wasn't up to my usual quality, and I 100% get why there was a disconnect. That's where I'm going to end that one. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome brought to you by SeatGeek. And SeatGeek, of course, is the fantastic ticket app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets for live events, whether it be comedy shows, sporting events, concerts. They put all the tickets in one place. They give them 0 to 100 scores so you know if you're getting a good deal or not. I have the app on my phone, and it is by far the easiest way to purchase tickets, whether it be something that I'm looking forward to a long way down the road or something that's kind of last minute. I mean, you've got baseball season underway. There are tons of awesome concerts like Childish Gambino, Drake, Taylor Swift, the Eagles are all on sale right now. And so if you want to check it out, you want to make the smart move like many from the nation already have, go to SeatGeekPhil.com, download the app, make sure you enter an offer code PHIL, and you'll get $20 off your first ticket purchase. And the first bit of awesome today is we had Steve and Tyler on Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts. It's kind of a repetitive concept, but I still enjoy it for some reason. We then got the Battlefield 5 teaser trailer. Then we got another True Facts from Zay Frank. We got a new Lucas the Spider. We also got a trailer for John McCain, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Then we got a teaser for the next guest on My Next Guest Needs No Introduction with David Letterman. And that next guest is Howard Stern, and I can't wait because one of my favorite things is to see someone that is great at interviews being interviewed. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's talk about our douchebag of the day. So back in October of 2016, there was a fatal car crash in Boone County, Indiana that involved alcohol. And when authorities arrived, they found one man lying on the ground next to the driver's side who ended up later dying at the hospital, and one man whose father had arrived and was taking care of him. And that survivor was 20-year-old Jack Henry Kaplan, who told authorities that he and James Doppler, age 21, had gone out to dinner and had an unknown quantity of beers. He says that after that, he drove them to the store to buy snacks, but at that point, he told Doppler that he was too drunk to drive. And so his friend drove, but then they ended up crashing into a tree. Well, if I'm talking about this, you most likely already know that something is up. Police have now arrested Kaplan for driving while intoxicated and wrecking his car, which killed his friend. According to the Boone County Fatal Alcohol Crash Team investigators, Kaplan removed his friend from the passenger seat and put him on the ground next to the driver's side. And doctors believe that the crash knocked Doppler unconscious and he never woke up. And reportedly, Kaplan sat in the passenger seat awaiting help and he never called 911, instead calling his dad. His dad, who, by the way, came out to the site of the crash before calling 911, and investigators estimate the two were alone at the crime scene for about 20 minutes. And so emergency assistance didn't arrive until about an hour after the crash occurred. And investigators noted that Kaplan's story fell apart pretty quick. One, they reportedly have surveillance footage that shows Kaplan pouring bourbon into Doppler's mouth in the store. That same surveillance footage also shows that Kaplan drove away, not Doppler. They also found that only Kaplan's DNA was on the driver's seat while both of their DNA was on the passenger seat. The autopsy also showed that the injuries Doppler sustained were inconsistent with him being the driver. And so now Kaplan faces all of these charges. The main point, that is why Jack Henry Kaplan is our douchebag of the day. I'm not sure fully what the lesson of this story is. I mean, I guess one, don't drink and drive. That's just a constant. Don't be a douchebag. Not only are you putting yourself, anyone else in the car, but anyone else that's on the road in danger. But then, and obviously this gets hyper specific, if you do not do that first thing, when you accidentally kill your friend, don't then also frame him for his own death. Although let's be honest, if you're disregarding the advice to not drink and drive, if this is even an option for you, you're probably not going to listen to this advice. And then let's talk about the completely legitimate, unrigged election that we saw in Venezuela yesterday, and if you cannot sense the sarcasm, I don't know how to hit on it harder. Now, it's been a few months since we last visited Venezuela, and unfortunately, things have gotten worse. The country is dealing with widespread malnutrition. It is not uncommon for families to have 2 small meals a day, and these meals are almost entirely carbs since fresh fruit and veggies are expensive, not to mention the astronomical price of meat. Reportedly, 2 pounds of meat roughly costs 1 month of pay for a minimum wage worker. And regarding the money situation, according to the IMF, inflation is supposed to hit 13,000% this year, making the Bolivar, their currency, almost completely worthless. Venezuela has been cut off from most international financing. Its only real source of cash is oil production, which is plummeting, exacerbating the inflation problem. But as far as the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, he blames the country's problem on an economic war waged by the United States. But most economists disagree. They say that it's poor government management, corruption, and broken policies that are to blame. As far as the people, reportedly over 1 million Venezuelans have fled to bordering countries like Colombia and Brazil. Some have fled even further to the United United States, Argentina, Chile. But also back in the country, political unrest is widespread, but protesting is very dangerous. There have been harsh reprisals for protesters, and the largest opposition parties have been de facto banned from office. And as far as the state of the government, you might remember we talked about the government unconstitutionally removed the National Assembly from power last year and replaced it with a puppet Congress. They call it the Constituent Assembly, but it's just made up of supporters of President Nicolas Maduro. So all of that brings us to yesterday's elections. And there, despite his unpopularity, the massive problems in the country, Nicolas Maduro won another 6 years in office. And he's also pointed out that he won with the largest percentage ever, with 68% of the popular vote. But that number really doesn't tell the whole story, and the election is largely seen as rigged, which is why I keep saying that he won. While Maduro did win a large percentage of the votes, the total number of votes cast is far less than normal. For example, Maduro won 1.5 million less votes this year than in 2013. And voter turnout in Venezuela has historically been around 80%, but this time it was around only 46%. And the reason voter turnout was low is for a variety of reasons. First up, the opposition largely boycotted the vote. The largest opposition party, MUD, was barred from participating, and many of the most popular opposition candidates were also banned from the election. And that was only if they weren't already arrested for charges related to protesting the government. Another big factor is how skewed the elections really were, as if banning opposition didn't make the election already easy enough to win. Maduro also pulled a bunch of other stuff to ruin the chances of others to run successful campaigns. Elections were unconstitutionally called early by that Constituent Assembly I mentioned, even though it's not their job to call elections. The other campaigns of people who had not been jailed or barred only had 26 days to actually run a campaign. The three main candidates, which also included Maduro, signed an agreement of electoral guarantees. It was a redundant agreement since everything contained was already a law, but the agreement was supposed to secure fair elections. The agreement had provisions like not using government resources to help in campaigns. Guess what? It got leaked that Maduro's party did just that. They also agreed to remove red points from nearby voting areas, and that was actually a big deal because red points are the areas that Venezuelans go to receive government food. And the idea was that if you have these next to voting places, that was just a way for the government to remind Venezuelans that they need Maduro. Guess what? Not only were the red points not removed, many were placed closer to voting stations. Reportedly, many voters simply voted and then went straight to the red points, leading to allegations that the people were being coerced to vote for Maduro for food. And on top of that, Maduro offered prizes to those who voted for him and reported to the red point afterwards. Also, because apparently all of that was not enough, normally during the election, indelible ink is used so people can't vote twice. Many reports came in that that was ignored. And once again, on top of all of that, you had people saying that they don't like Maduro, but they still voted for Maduro because they were worried of reprisals. Many people believing the government was monitoring who people were voting for and would act out based on those votes. Now, as far as the reaction, of course, Maduro was happy, saying others underestimated the revolutionary people. Falcone and the opposition saying we do not recognize this electoral process as valid. Senator Marco Rubio here in the States saying the dictator Nicolas Maduro has not deceived anyone. The world has seen this farce and supports the people of Venezuela in their fight for the restoration of a democratic country. Vice President Mike Pence also tweeting Venezuela's election was a sham, adding that Trump has taken strong action on Venezuela and there's more to come. The US will not sit idly by as Venezuela crumbles. And that reaction is completely what you'd expect because the United States, even before the elections took place, condemned them, saying that they were going to be unfair, undemocratic, threatening harsher sanctions. We've also seen Grupo Lima, a huge coalition of Latin American countries, all deciding that they're going to reduce their diplomatic relations with Venezuela over this election. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the situation that we're looking at is in Venezuela, it looks like 6 more years of Maduro, although even calling it 6 more years is ridiculous. Based off of what we've seen Maduro and his government do publicly, based off of what we've learned about the behind the scenes, it's hard to look at Maduro as anything other than a dictator. And more importantly, a dictator that appears to be completely content with driving his country further into the ground just so he can stay in power. But ultimately, that's where we are right now, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens from here. Other than harsher sanctions, are we going to see more countries get involved personally or by arming? But ultimately, we'll have to wait and see. And that is unfortunately where we're going to end today's show. There was a lot more that I wanted and I think that we need to talk about, including the shooting in Santa Fe, what's happening with Trump, the DOJ, the FBI. There are 6 other things that I wanted to talk about today. Do not worry, that and so much more will be covered this week. It's just with certain stories that they are deserving of a lot more time. And I don't want to rush it and just jam things in because that's where we get confusion, like the first thing that I had to talk about today. But that said, this is still the Philip DeFranco Show. Those are the stories, sometimes my opinion, and now I want to hear from you, whether it be the last thing, the first thing, anything in between. Let me know your thoughts today in those comments down below. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.